The initial scene highlights two companions, Sarah and Linda, who are going through a container of Sarah's late mother's possessions. They find a Polaroid camera and an image of her MOM, probably taken with that same camera. Sarah decides to use this camera to click an image of herself in undergarments for her own sweetheart. However, when the flash goes off, she feels somewhat uncomfortable. As they wait for the photo to develop, Linda gets a call, so she leaves Sarah alone. Sarah goes to close the front door when she hears noises from upstairs, as if someone is using the camera. After heading to the room, she finds that the photo has developed, but to her shock, she sees a shadowy figure in the background. Her fear intensifies when the lights start flickering and more noises are heard from another room. As Sarah nervously walks through the hall, a ball bounces down from the attic. Despite feeling scared, she climbs to the attic, but the ladder falls to the ground, leaving her no safe way down. I'm sure she could jump. It isn't that far. Confused, Sarah then scans the area to figure out what's happening. But suddenly, a grotesque hand surprises her, causing her to fall and be suspended in midair. Sarah is then dragged back up and killed before her dead body is thrown down. In the next scene, we are introduced to a shy young girl, Bird Fitcher, who is preparing for picture day at school. She always wears a scarf to hide a scar on her neck, earning her the nickname Scarf Girl from her friends. After school, Bird is leaving the premises when she sees her crush, Connor, with his friends. She gets her camera to click his picture, but he catches her in the act. Embarrassed, she quickly gathers her things and leaves for work at a thrift shop. There, she's approached by her co-worker, Tyler, who surprises her with a rare 70 seconds Polaroid camera that he found at a garage sale, which has the letters RGs engraved on it. Eager to test it out, Bird clicks Tyler's picture. As they wait for the photo to develop, Tyler leans in for a kiss, but Bird feels uncomfortable and leaves, leaving the camera case behind. After returning home, Bird attempts to take some photos of her dog with her new camera, but it oddly growls and steps back just before she can snap the picture. Her best friend, Casey, arrives and asks Bird to go with her to a costume party, suggesting that it's a great chance to mingle with friends and possibly see Connor. Bird, who is initially hesitant, agrees after hearing her crush's name. Soon after, they're picked up by their friends, Minor and Devon, a couple with a bit of a lively love-hate relationship. While goofing around in the car, Bird takes out Tyler's photo she took earlier and sees a dark shadow in the background. She tries to wipe it off, thinking it's a smudge, but it doesn't disappear. Despite this, she doesn't pay much attention and puts it away. Meanwhile, Tyler is preparing to close the shop when he spots a bunch of old pictures in a box. He sets them on the projector and starts looking. During this, he sees a shadowy figure that moves from one photo to another. Thinking there's someone in the background, he swings a hammer towards the shadow but hits nothing. When he checks the projector again, the curtain transforms into a figure and charges towards Tyler, apparently taking his life. At the party venue, Bird and her friends are greeted by Avery, the host. Bird already seems uncomfortable, so she stands alone in a corner. Shortly after, she sees a guy in a skeleton mask staring at her. How does she know? She tries to dodge him, but the man walks right up to her and reveals himself to be Connor. It's a great relief for Bird. It's not scary at all. It's just the hot guy. They start talking. Soon after, they're interrupted by Minor and Devon, who invite Connor to join them for a group selfie. Bird then offers to take their picture using her Polaroid camera. But just in time, Casey shows up out of nowhere and photobombs. Once again, the dark shadow looms behind Connor. Avery then appears and snatches Bird's camera to click a selfie. But before the photo can develop, the police enter the party looking for Bird. Next, we see Bird at the police station, where Sheriff Pembroke reveals the devastating news about Tyler's death. He encourages her to reach out if she finds any leads regarding the incident. As they talk, he recognizes her last name and recalls an accident she survived in her childhood, which explains the origin of her neck scars. That night, Bird reviews the photo she took with her Polaroid camera. To her amazement, she realizes that the mysterious shadow has vanished from Tyler's photo and has now appeared in Avery's. Meanwhile, Avery is cleaning her place after the party when she hears footsteps from upstairs. She cautiously heads to investigate, only to encounter a creepy figure lurking in the darkness. Terrified, she runs towards the front door but accidentally hits her head on a light, causing her to fall. Despite this, she tries to crawl away, but the ghostly entity catches up to her and snaps her neck, killing her. The next morning, Bird gets a call from Casey, informing her about Avery's death. Shaken by the news, she checks the photos again, only to find that the shadow has now vanished from Avery's photo and moved to the group photo. Bird then tries to destroy the camera, but it emits a shockwave that pushes her over. That was ridiculous. Later, at school, Bird sits with Mina, Devon, Casey, and Connor, all grappling with the recent losses. During this, she shares her theory that Avery's death wasn't accidental, explaining how the shadow moved from one photo to another after each death. She warns them that anyone photographed by this Polaroid camera dies. Unfortunately, no one takes her words seriously, and Devon even burns the group photo. This unexpectedly causes Mina's hand to burn in reality, and Casey also feels pain in her fingers. But before anyone can burn to death, Bird stomps the picture, putting the fire out. The scorched photo then restores itself. In the aftermath, Mina is taken to the hospital to undergo surgery for her arm. As the friends wait outside, they discuss the origin of the camera. Bird recalls that the camera case is now at the thrift shop, so she and Connor go to retrieve it. But when they reach the shop, Bird opts to go in alone, saying that she's safe because she's not in the photo. While waiting in the car, Connor looks at the group photo and suddenly hears the camera going off inside. Bird retrieves the case, but the ghostly entity appears, scaring her. She runs towards the exit, but her scarf gets caught on a nail, choking her. It seems she will meet her end too, but Connor arrives just in time and saves her. Later, on returning, Bird wonders why the entity came after her, to which Connor reveals that she's also in the picture. It turns out that her reflection can be faintly seen in the photo's background. What kind of rules is this demon playing by anyway? At the hospital, Mina awakens from surgery and finds Devon by her bedside. After a short visit, he steps out to call a nurse. Meanwhile, Mina gets a call from Bird, telling her not to be alone. Panicked, she tries to leave her bed, but the entity suddenly attacks her. When Devon returns, he finds the room empty with a bit of blood trail on the floor. He follows the trail and discovers Mina's lifeless body hanging behind a curtain. When Bird and Connor arrive at the clinic, they see Devon conversing with the police. Once everyone leaves, he approaches Bird and angrily blames her for causing all of this. He talks so rudely to her that she ends up running off, crying. Connor then follows her, and the two sit in the corridor to talk. As they converse, Bird tells him about her dad, who was a journalist. One night, he wanted to show her one of his projects, but she declined as she wanted to go to a sleepover at her friend's house. This prompted her father to turn the car around to go back home, but he sadly got into a fatal accident. After hearing this, Connor offers her comfort, assuring her that the accident wasn't her fault. The two then check the contents of the camera case and find a locker tag hidden inside. Intrigued, they visit the library to research the significance of the date. After going through several old articles, they find that the camera was owned by a photography teacher, Roland Joseph Sable, from their school. He was accused of torturing 4 students and killing 3 of them while taking twisted photos. How did no one know about this? One of the captives escaped, after which Roland was shot by the police. Later, the friends gather at a restaurant to discuss their next move. During this, Bird tells them that when the entity was coming after her, it approached some hot thing and reacted to it. She then explains that while developing the photos, heat and light can destroy the images. Therefore, she hypothesizes that this thing could act like a developing photo, meaning that it can exist in the dark. Additionally, she reveals a picture of Roland's old house, suggesting that someone related to him might still live there and have information. Casey searches the web and finds out that the house was purchased by a person named C. Faraday. Amid their discussion, Devon expresses his frustration over Mina's fate and decides to click Bird's picture to understand how it works. However, Connor dislikes the idea, leading to a fight for the camera. In the process, a photo is accidentally snapped. Soon after, Devon is seen in the photo, and the shadow moves to him, indicating that he's the next victim. Afraid for his life, Devon tries to use the camera on one of his friends in a desperate bid to stop him. Casey stabs Devon's photo with a pencil, and its real-time effect causes him to drop the camera. This enrages Devon, and he tries to attack the friends, but Sheriff Pembroke shows up just in time and arrests him. Later on, Bird and Connor attempt to explain to the sheriff about the danger lurking around Devon due to the camera. Bird also presents evidence regarding Roland. However, the resolute officer warns them against digging into Roland's matter. Before leaving, Bird talks with Devon, who apologizes for his previous actions. He also suggests that his death could give them a chance to stop the entity. While returning, Bird gets a call from Casey, who informs them that Anne wasn't the real buyer of the house. It was Lena Sable, Roland's wife, using a fake name. Despite Pembroke's warning, Bird and Connor decide to visit Lena to uncover the truth. Back at the police station, the lights go out and the spooky entity attacks Devon in his cell, resulting in his demise. Meanwhile, Connor and Bird arrive at Lena's home. She initially refuses to talk to them, but when they mention the camera, she reveals that it actually belonged to their daughter, Rebecca James Sable, matching the initials RJ's. Lena then leads them to her room and shares her story. Rebecca endured persistent bullying at school and often withdrew into her own world. The camera they gifted her became her comfort, accompanying her everywhere she went. However, one day, her 4 friends tricked her into going with them. They took inappropriate photos of her with the camera, which they circulated throughout the school to embarrass her. Overwhelmed with shame, Rebecca tragically committed suicide. Following this loss, Roland found the photos and vowed to avenge his daughter. He captured the bullies in a dark room of the school and clicked their photos before starting to kill them. Shortly after, the police intervened and shot Roland, who died clutching the camera. Lena reveals that one of the 4 kids managed to escape and shows them his picture. As she finishes her story, the lights in the room start flickering. This prompts Connor to check the photos, and he sees that the shadow has moved back to the group photo. Sensing the impending danger, they leave the scene and rush to school, calling Casey too. Upon arrival, they search through the archive drawers for old yearbooks and eventually match the picture of the survivor Lena gave them earlier. To their shock, the survivor is none other than Pembroke. Right then, the sheriff arrives with Casey and handcuffs them, accusing them of breaking into the school, trying to prevent the entity from killing them. Connor snaps a photo of Pembroke before the ladder, throws the camera to the floor. Following this, Pembroke reveals that Lena's story was just a fabrication, and that the inappropriate photos were actually taken by Roland himself. He claims that Roland often sexually assaulted Rebecca, so he and his 3 friends intended to help her by showing those photos to the police. However, Roland found out about their plan and abducted them. As Pembroke finishes his explanation, the entity appears behind him. The sheriff opens fire, but the bullets don't affect it. It tears Pembroke's photo in half, splitting him to death. The entity then attacks Casey, injuring her leg. At this point, Connor seizes the sheriff's gun and fires at the entity to divert its attention. The girls take the opportunity to seek refuge in the restroom, where they turn on the hot water to protect themselves. After some time, Bird leaves to find Connor, who soon grabs her arm and pulls her into a room. Bird then comes up with an idea that involves retrieving the camera and going somewhere where Roland can fully develop. When they get the camera, the entity drags Connor away. To save him, Bird quickly takes a selfie with the camera, drawing its attention towards her. She then leads the entity to the darkroom in the basement. Soon after, the entity grabs her by the neck and starts choking her. In a swift action, Bird uses the camera to snap the entity's picture, accidentally including her fingers. Despite this, she crumples the photo, causing both the creature and her hand to crumble. When this still doesn't kill it, she sets the picture on fire, finally ending the entity once and for all. Following this, she reunites with Connor and Casey, who then share an embrace of relief. In the final scene, we see Bird, who throws the camera into the sea, ensuring that the cycle of events will never repeat unless a dolphin gets a hold of it. Those rats are smart.